All right, it is literally cool in here, isn't it? It is chilly. Yeah, no complaints. All right, well, thanks everybody for coming. This is going to be a pretty basic demonstration on how to use the sharpening system. This is a one-way system, but it's exactly the same as the Rikon that we have in the store. Um, I've had this one for years before the Rikon even was a thing. So I'm going to show you how I do it. You can use it all different kinds of different ways. So don't hesitate to try different things. But what you're going to see here is just a Rikon low-speed grinder with the adjustable jig set up underneath it. This jig can be cradled, so your tool can go in the back if it's long enough, and you can sharpen that way, but I'm going to actually show you a little bit different. And then, of course, you've got a pad here to where you can sharpen skews, scrapers, negative rake tools, things like that. Sorry, it's a little chilly in here, so it's like making my throat close up. No. If anything, I need a sweatshirt, I guess. But anyway, so yeah, some shots would warm me up. So you guys can see like where my lathe is and where my sharpener is, because like I sharpen a lot. So if I'm turning a bowl or something with a bowl gouge, I like to sharpen very regularly. So I can go right from here to here pretty quickly. And what I do for the most part is I really like 40 and 50 degree grinds. So I use the Raptor setup. Anyone use one of these yet? It just makes it easy to repeat your setup. So once you have it set up, you can sharpen in a snap. And how this works is it works in combination with the Jig, and your tool goes in. I think I was sharpening somebody else's the other day. So this goes in. You have a setup tool. I have got a 1 3/4 here. It really doesn't matter. It's more about the size of your wheel for what you pick for your setup jig, but you can use a little thing like this. You can measure a block and screw it to your table, whatever you want to do. Really the main thing is consistency. So whatever I do this time, if I do it the same every time, I'll have that consistency in my edge.
Why did you choose that depth?
Yeah, so the question was, why did I choose this depth? To be honest with you, this was the only one available when I bought it, or I would have chosen the 2-inch. It's a 1 3/4. I think the 2-inch is probably the most versatile for more people. But this is what I've been using for years because that's the one I have. So
but that gives you a different cut.
It gives you differences based on how your wheel size is and the Jig is set up. So
it doesn't really affect the performance.
It doesn't affect the angle that you get out of it. So this one has worked perfect for me because I've got this set where I need it. I don't ever move this. I could if I was like marked it and whatever, but I just don't, because I use most of my gouges I use at 40 or 50 degrees. That's just what I like the most. So how this works is your Raptor jig, they all have a number, 50, 40, 35, 60, whatever. This is what you're setting your tool to work in conjunction with this. So this doesn't do you much good unless you're using one of these, because what you're setting is your distance here from the cradle to the wheel, and I want to rotate it to where both points here and here are touching the wheel, and I'm sitting in the cradle corner. Then I want to lock it down. Oh, it moved on me. You see why I don't move it? All right. So once it's locked down, that's set at a 50 degree. So once I've got my tool in here, I can now cut the 50. The reason it's good to measure from the front of your tool rather than using the cradle on the back of your tool is every time you grind it, it's going to be a little shorter. Now that would be very small at a time, but over time it's going to, I mean, if you use a tool a lot, it's going to get inches shorter over the years. So it just gives you that consistency. So no matter how long my tool is, this is always the same. So once I've got this, you can see it just goes in my cradle, and it's a simple back and forth. Typically, when I'm turning a lot, I make 2 motions. I'll let it get up to speed. I'll put it in the cradle, and I'll go for one side to the middle, and then I'll go from the back side to the middle, and that's it. So you can see my edge is nice and sharp and shiny, and I got a good little burr on there. And that's all I'll do. You could do more, but by doing that, I mean, I didn't even heat up my tool. So I didn't overheat it. I didn't mess up my edge, and I'm ready to turn. And it's, you know, it's night and day. It's sharper than a new tool, it feels like, every time you do that. Did you have a question, sir? Oh, sorry. Thought you. If you have any questions, let me know. So that's it. Now you can, obviously, if you're just doing the tool for the first time, you may need to do a little more. Don't overheat the tool. Keep it cool while you're doing it. The idea with these slow speed machines is that they won't heat it up. Somebody brought in some tools in their grinder for what they were doing, and I don't know what the grinder spun at, but I mean, it had his tool on fire so fast. It was terrible, and it just was hard to get a good edge. But you guys can see this is pretty clean from just that one pass. It's a nice sharp edge.
That run at 1750.
This one I think is, yeah, 1750. Yeah, the Rikon slow speed is kind of the standard that most people are using. You can put these CBN wheels on it, which really make it nice. It's not necessary. The stone wheels will work fine, but you do need to dress them occasionally and keep them nice and square. Whereas these, I mean, I've been using these for years. You probably can't even tell I've ever touched them. They just hold up really well.
On the tip, you just went from one side to the other, so you don't worry about tip of it.
In the center?
Yeah, in the center.
Yeah, so the question was, I just went from one side to the middle and the other side to the middle. By going into the middle, I do get the middle on both sides, so it kind of meets in the middle. You know, and it wouldn't hurt to go the whole way. I'll be honest, I'm terrible at like sharpening and controlling this. So before this system, and I would try to do it by hand, I mean, it looked like I beat it with a hammer, and there was all kinds of, I just am not good at holding it steady. So even like that, I don't feel like I'm holding it steady. So I just, that kind of is a flow that works for me. Yes, sir? No, so the question was, do I have a jig that works on skews? There may be a jig, I'd have to look. But typically for skews, I use this padded side or platform side, and then I sharpen my skews that way. And you can see, you can adjust this to the tool to get the same edge. That way you can repeat the edge. And a lot of times, if you're adjusting it to work on a tool, you can match your edge by moving this in and out and moving this up or down to match the edge that you're trying to get. So that way, if you have a specific tool with a certain edge, you can match it. Yep.
We have an online question. What grit are the stone wheels?
Oh, yeah, good question. What grit are the stone wheels? This one, let's see. So on this machine, I have an 80 grit on this side, which is more of my rougher for shaping, for doing my skews and my other things. And then I have a 180 on this side. Now, if I did it again, like I said, I've been using this for years and years, probably before I knew what I was doing, and I don't know what I'm doing now. So, you know, I would actually probably go with a higher grit on each one. I might go with a 120 and like a 220 or 320 for the higher grit, because that just gives you a finer edge. So when you make that pass, it's going to take off less material, but it'll give you that sharper, finer edge. You can see this 180 does pretty good, but I would probably up it if I did it again. Now, I'm not going to do it because I have these and they work fine. I don't believe in changing them out just for that, but that's how I would do it if I did it again. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I always take a mark and mark the end of the tool where I'm sharpening,
Yeah.
just to make sure it's getting.
Yeah, that's a good habit. Amy, will you grab me a Sharpie? Oh, here's one. So he said he always marks the end of his tool. And it's actually cool because you can kind of see, get my fingers to work here. I'll mark most of it. How about that? And it's really good because it gives you a visual. So you can see the marker on there. And it gives you a visual of what you've cut. So a lot of times you might be thinking you're taking off just a ton of material or a ton of that edge, but you don't really know. So this gives you a chance to see. So you can see that pass. You can tell this is the one I use a lot with that tool because it did the whole surface just perfect. Now, if I had just changed angles or something, I'd still have some of that black, and then where my fresh cut was would be clean. But it pretty much cleaned the whole thing up marker with one pass. So that's a good tip, Richard. Definitely do that, and then you can kind of see that everything you're doing is actually working the way you want it to. Yeah. Hello, Richard. We got 2 Richards in the house. Any other questions online? Any other questions from anybody? Makes sense. It's just really, it's about repeatability. I always tell people, even if you set this up wrong, there's no right or wrong in this game, I think. But even if you set it up wrong, if you consistently grind the same angle and you like that angle, it doesn't matter because you're going to be happy with a sharp tool. We get we get people in the store and they say, hey, my gouge, it just doesn't feel very good. It doesn't cut very well. Or I'm ripping stuff and I say, well, how often do you sharpen? And they go, sharpen? So that's always a problem. So if you're going to use traditional tools, you need to have a way to sharpen. It doesn't have to be this one, but this is just one option. But you do need to sharpen them regularly. Yes, sir?
Can you go over what the jig is called and what you have available?
Yeah, the one we have is the same thing. It's the Rikon, and it's just the Rikon sharpening system. So with that, you get basically everything you see under the grinder. The 2 slides, the platform, the cradle, and then the grinder sold separately. You can get different things like this. We have them over there, the Very Jig. There are some other attachments for sharpening other things, like traditional chisels for woodworking. So if you're cutting whatever you cut with a chisel, you can sharpen those on these real easy. There's kitchen knife attachments, because I'll tell you what, this 180, even though it's a 180, boy, it makes a pocket knife sharp, I'll tell you that. So you can really do a lot of different things on this other than just your turning tools. So you have a lot of options. And we have them all over there, kind of in the back room where the grinders are.
So how do you sharpen a bull gouge?
A what?
A bull gouge, big
A bowl gouge?
bull.
Bull?
Yeah.
Like a roughing gouge?
Yeah, the big one.
Like this guy here? Yeah, so
Same application, but
no. So actually, anybody see a problem? It doesn't fit. So actually, I do this one on the platform, and a lot of times I'll draw lines on it for myself to kind of guide how I want to try to roll it. But I still tend to do with this one half and half, and that's just because I'm not good at controlling it. So I do what my strengths are, which is not having strengths at sharpening. So I'll do half, and then I'll do half, and usually I can get it pretty good. Like this was the last sharpen. It's pretty clean.
Definitely want to mark with a mark.
Yeah, definitely mark that, because you're going to see real quickly if you tilted it when you rolled it or if you went up or down. And that's a real important one that you want a nice straight grind on. So that's more of a hand grind application. Now there could be a jig for that. I don't know. We don't carry one, but I haven't seen one. But that'd be something to come up with, because roughing gouges are nice.
I use the other deal.
Oh, do you use this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work too.
And
As long as you can keep that grind straight.
What I do is I mark the tool, and then I turn my hand so I know I got the right. I got to take off all the black.
Oh yeah.
From the heel to the.
Okay.
edge.
So what he said is he marks the tool with the black so that he can see it. Those little things jiggle. And then he uses the cradle. So he marks the edge black, and then he uses the cradle, right?
Yeah.
And that would work great, actually.
And that gives me, so I know that I've got the right.
See,
edge,
that's
how far
that's
up
probably
it is.
much easier than using the platform because you have a pivot point to
Yes.
just kind of roll it.
And I do the same
So
with
that's-
you, say, one side to the other.
Next time I do it, I'm going to do that for sure because that will definitely keep me straighter than my hand. Yes.
That arm works perfect.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
What was the, what did you say?
I said,
This
that
arm works perfect.
Works perfect.
Hmm.
Sharpening.
I got a couple questions. Is there like tips and tricks to setting up the sharpening system?
So
Proper way
the
or-
question was, are there tips and tricks to setting this up? If you look at this, everyone see how these have kind of an angle? I mean, they're just square, but they're on a diamond, the camera. So you want this ridge, this top ridge, right in the center of your wheel. Now there's different widths of wheel. This is 1 inch, there's 1.5, so I think there's even 2s. You've got your stone. It doesn't matter what your wheel is, as long as that ridge is in the center of your wheel. And I mean, just from based on what we talked about just now, you can imagine if you're doing this and you're not centered, the whole thing is going to be skewed one way or the other. So the main thing is that you have to make sure those are centered on your wheels. The other thing is you always almost have to lift your grinder up. So you can see I've got a couple pieces of plywood here, and it just lifted it off the bench enough to clear those slides. Yep.
Does the diameter of the wheel make much difference in the degree of the grind?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll change how you set up your jigs. So the question was, does the diameter of the wheel change your setup? It absolutely will, because it's going to change all your angles. So when you get your grinder and your wheels and you buy a jig, there's instructions with it on how you set it up, because you're going to have more or less angle depending on your distances and things. So yeah, there is, and they come with instructions on how to set them up.
But the jig is adjustable regardless of what.
Yep. Yeah, you can see this one is kind of at the about a quarter of the way from being at the end.
Right.
But depending on what you're doing and what your setup is, you might have it down more or less. But that's why I never changed this, because once I got it set up, I don't even remember the rules of setting it up. It's been so long, but I know it's set up for what I'm doing, so I'm not changing it. Yeah. Which is nice about when you have, a setup right here at your lathe. Mike, any questions?
I do have a question. I came in late, I don't know if you already answered.
Yeah.
that, but the actual grinder that you use is a variable speed or a slow speed?
Slow speed. So it's a Rikon slow speed. We kind of touched on it, but not really, so that's okay. You can use a high-speed grinder if that's what you have. I would use it, but it's going to be a little more difficult. You're going to have to move really quickly to not overheat your tool. So the big help with the slow speed is it doesn't overheat your tool fast. So I mean, I could still do it if I just sat on it, but if I just am moving my tool pretty quickly, it doesn't even get hot to the touch.
And the wheels need to be those types?
Nope, these are called CBN wheels. They're like a diamond encrusted wheel. Most grinders will come with a stone wheel. I mean, unless you just want to get the CBN right away, I would use those and practice on those, and then get your CBNs after you make all your mistakes and jam your gouge into it a few times.
I just got the big grinder.
Yep. Use what you got. I rarely would tell people to just throw away what you got and buy something new. Like, use what you got, just make it work. Absolutely. The guides make a big difference. You can do it without. We were talking about doing it freehand. Some people can do it freehand and it just is amazing. I'm not one of those people. That's why I bought this years ago. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Also, the wheels, they come with different diameter holes.
Yeah, the wheels. He said the wheels come with different diameter holes. They do. Typically, what's nice now, if you buy a Rikon grinder and Rikon CBN wheels, they're going to fit. So that's kind of a nice thing. But yeah, just look at the diameter. Most of these shafts are 5/8 arbors. So you can look at your wheels and see what size you're getting and make sure you get the right one. And a lot of times you do need spacers, which you can get pretty easily now. Yep. Very good. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, in that regard, a lot of wheels come with bushings.
Yeah.
You can buy bushings.
Yep. Yeah, there are bushing options available. Yep. Richard, do you need a pen? I can get you one. I'm just kidding. Both pockets are lined. I'm like, oh man, I feel so naked here. All right, any other questions before we wrap up? Thanks everybody for coming. We do have in a couple hours or an hour some resin stuff, just the basics of resin casting. We're going to do a color drop, and I'm going to continue to do ring stuff. So if you missed the ring stuff or want to check that out, we're going to start that up in just a couple more minutes. Any other questions? Good?
I think it's like
1 o'clock. Yeah.
But then we're gonna do a ring one specifically for online.
Yep. Yeah. So if you're at home later and you want to watch the ring one online, you can do that too at 2:30. So, all right. Thanks for coming out. If you guys have any questions in the store, let us know and we'll be around. Yeah.
They got an oven payment. I don't see it listed on their site anymore.
Oh, from Cactus Juice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's failed.
Oh, really?
I ruined a batch.
Oh,
It looks like it's working, but the output is staying steady.
let's.
Yes, I guess I could send them an email and see if they can repair it or something.